Welcome, everybody, to the Week 13 live show of the Primetime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, in the hopes that we help you prevail in Week 13 and the rest of the 2021 fantasy football season. I am your host, Nick Giacobi, and joining me is Nick Cap. Nick, we're recording early today. Nick is going to the Jets versus Eagles game willingly, so you guys don't have to worry. He didn't lose a bet. He's not being kidnapped. Nick, blink twice if you're being forced to go watch the New York Jets play football today. No blinking. All righty. So Nick is going to the Jets game today. That's why we are recording a little bit early. It's 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern time on a Sunday. We're going to go for about a half an hour. Nick, how are you feeling today about your Jets, about fantasy football, about Week 13?
Last week was a bad week, and we all know great teams, they don't have back-to-back bad weeks, baby. So we're going in strong to this week.
Nick, how cold is it up there? I'm in Florida, by the way. I'm from New York. That's where me and Nick have known each other for 19 years.
It is a solid 41 degrees with snow on Wednesday. Jesus Christ.
Well, 41's not bad today. I think over here it's like 50-something. I'm in Orlando. Right now it's sitting at 59, so not too bad. Alrighty. I actually do want to get into this a little bit. So if this is your first time watching us and or listening, welcome. Thank you so much, whether it's live or on the replay. We do a live show every single Sunday. The time does fluctuate. We're going to have to go early next week because I do have a morning commitment, but that's okay. The time does fluctuate. We let you guys know during our week shows exactly what's going to go on. So live show every Sunday. We answer your questions. We usually put up a question graphic the day before in case you can't watch live. We'll answer them during the stream. But if you are watching live, you can drop your questions at any time during the chat and we will answer them basically immediately. You can find our live stream every Sunday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The Twitter is PrimeTimeFFPod, YouTube and Facebook, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. If you want to listen to our weekly shows, and please do, the audio versions are on Tuesdays and Fridays. Audio versions can be found on anywhere where you can find a podcast: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It does go a long way. If you'd rather watch and listen to the show, go to our YouTube channel, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. All episodes are also uploaded to there. Our big announcement for the week is that me and Nick will be going live on the Colorcast app tonight for the Denver Broncos versus Kansas City Chiefs game. It's a pretty big opportunity. We're going to be live for the entire game, including commercials, including halftime. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of talking. And the cool part about it is we can bring people into our stream. So if you're a friend of ours, if you know us, jump into the stream, press the hot seat button, and we can actually add you in. It's almost like radio. We're going to be taking your calls basically if it's a live radio call-in. We'll talk about the Denver versus Kansas City game. We'll talk about fantasy football. We'll talk about life. We'll talk about football. We'll talk about Spider-Man. We'll talk about just about anything. Yes, we will. We'll talk about anything that you want to talk about, guys. It's a pretty lax stream, so please join in. We'll be going live right when the game starts at 8:20 on the Colorcast app. You can download it from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. It's 100% free. I'll have a link directly to our stream on our social channel. So again, please listen to that. It's a big opportunity for us. So it'd really be cool if you guys listen to it. Alrighty, let's get to go. Actually, let's do questions first. We have a couple questions that we asked on our social channels, so let's get to the questions first, then we'll do a game-by-game breakdown. First question from Paul_Quadrado on Twitter. Cole Beasley, Laviska Shenault, or Devontae Parker have Adams on bye?
I think you know who I'm going to say. I've been saying him all year, but he's been hurt all year. It's Devontae Parker. While Parker's been healthy this year and out on the field, the least amount of targets he's had is 7. The most is 11. He's averaging a little bit over 9 targets per game when he's out and healthy on the field. When you have that kind of recipe, you're set up to have a good week. Beasley's been on and off. Shenault has not been reliable for fantasy. Parker, he's just not been healthy. And when he's out there, you have to play him seeing those numbers.
I think Shenault is the definition of a sophomore slump, and he's pretty much been a bust this year. I think he's a lot of players that people had as a boom or maybe a breakout or something like that in the later rounds, but he's been a bust. That's the reality of it. And Laviska Shenault probably shouldn't be owned in many fantasy leagues at this point. I mean, just looking at his numbers right here, I did pull him up on my phone. He's only had over 12 fantasy points twice in 13 weeks, and he's played every week. So that's not very good. So, I would play Parker. I'm with Nick on this one. He also asks at tight end, Kyle Pitts or Dallas Goedert. I'm playing Dallas Goedert because the Jets defense is horrible against tight ends, and I can't stand the Atlanta Falcons. I love Kyle Pitts' talent. Fair. You're not asking which player is more talented. You're asking which player is going to score more fantasy points. Yeah, I'm going to take the player that I think is going to score more fantasy points in this one.
I'll go with Pitts because I think Pitts is the better talent, and Gardner Minshew is starting. And I don't remember Minshew ever having James O'Shaughnessy have a big week, so I'd rather go and trust the talent of Kyle Pitts over Goddard with Minshew.
All right. Andreas Capsales on Instagram says Tim Patrick or T.Y. Hilton. I'll play T.Y. because he's facing a horrible defense. He usually cooks the Texans. He's been doing it for like 10 years. Tim Patrick's the wide receiver 3 on a team that's probably not going to throw the ball a ton.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton against the Texans is averages like over 100 yards per game in his career with multiple touchdowns. I will play the matchup this week with T.Y., even though I would look to start neither of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And from Joseph G411, Dallas Goedert or T.J. Hockenson. Or actually, I'm sorry, Dallas Goedert, T.J. Hockenson, Juwan Jennings, 2 of them.
I'll go.
I think I might want to play
Hockenson.
Yeah, I play the 2 tight ends. I don't want to play Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has to flex one of them because of a ton of buys this week. But
I don't want to play it. I don't want to play a 49er that's not named George Kittle or Elijah Mitchell this week.
Yeah.
Ayuk too. I'll play Ayuk.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's go game by game now. I'm going to give you one start, one sit. We're going to give you injury updates. Let's get it. Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. Brandon Cooks is dealing with an illness, not COVID. He is expected to play. I'm sure he will. David Johnson is dealing with both an illness and a thigh issue. He is not expected to play. I'm thinking it's more because of the thigh issue, though. Nick, who's your big start, big sit in this game?
My big sit is Michael Pittman. I've loved Pittman all year long, but the fact of the matter is the Texans go down early and they do not put up a fight for the entire game. And when you have Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines in your backfield, you're going to use both. You're going to go waste some clock against this team. You're going to go walk away with a win when you're fighting for a playoff spot. You're not going to play it risky. That's what the Colts are going to do. It's their formula for success. It's what they've been doing all year, and I don't expect them to do anything less against the Texans team. My start, we've said it every week, but it's been Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is always going to be on a team that's down going into the fourth quarter, and he's always going to be good for garbage time yards. And on top of that, he's the only talented receiver on that roster.
I think Pittman's actually a great start. He's not going to be my start, but I would start Pittman with confidence this week. I'm actually going to start Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz could finish as a top 10 quarterback going up against the Houston defense. That's allowed the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks in fantasy football. So I would start Carson Wentz with confidence this week. If he's your backup, if he's on your waiver wire, he's a guy who would definitely get in your lineups. As for a sit, I would bench Tyrod Taylor. The Colts defense has been pretty good over the last few weeks. I know they shut down Josh Allen and company a couple of weeks ago, so I would not play Tyrod Taylor this week, and I definitely wouldn't play any of running backs or anybody else from Houston not named Brandon Cooks. Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Jets. Jalen Hurts, his ankle injury. I have seen very conflicting reports about this one, Nick. I saw yesterday he was hopeful to play. He was going to test it out pregame. Then I saw that he was out. Like, that's the word I saw, out. Now I'm seeing in the morning wrap, Jalen Hurts has been trending toward not playing today versus the Jets. He hasn't taken many first-team reps. So,
I've seen a couple reports saying he will not play, but then I saw the report this morning he's probably not going to play.
Yeah, so. I think he's going to try it, but he's not going to make it. That's at least the report that I'm seeing.
All I know is my guy, my GM, Mr. Douglas, pulled off a phenomenal trade. Go steal their backup because he knew something was going to happen. Great mastermind at the GM position.
Boston Scott has an illness, but he's also expected to play, and I believe that Jordan Howard is out, so Miles Sanders could get a heavy workload. So, Nick, who's your big start, big sit in the Jets versus Eagles game?
My start's going to be Devontae Smith. I think with Minshew there at quarterback, like I said last week, Jalen Hurts does not average. Jalen Hurts has a ton of games where he has less than 150 yards. 150 passing yards, which is not a good formula for your wide receiver one, your tight end one rest of the year. Devontae Smith with Gardner Minshew. Minshew's going to have to look his wide receiver one and his tight end most of the game. I don't think that and they're going to have to run the ball a lot. I think Sanders can play well. I don't think Goddard will play well. I think Devontae Smith has the formula to have a good enough week for you to flex him. My set is all the Jets running backs. They used 3 guys last week. With no Michael Carter, they reliably trusted all three. So, when you have that, you don't know who to start on a bad team where you don't know if they're going to win. You really can't start any of the three running backs.
My Seahawks are very, very stinky, especially on defense. They're horrible. They've given up the second most fantasy points to running backs. The first is actually the Jets. So I'm going to say play Miles Sanders this week, which is words that I didn't think I was going to utter at all throughout this fantasy season. His last 2 weeks, 94 yards and 64 yards. And his fantasy points haven't been great, 9.4, 7.4, because no touchdown and no receiving yards. But today, I think he could get in the end zone, and I think he could post 12, 13, 15 fantasy points against a Jets defense that has given up a lot of fantasy points to the running back. So I would say start Miles Sanders, and I think that they could lean on him without having Jalen Hurts. As for a sit, I'm sitting all the Jets wide receivers. The Eagles have given up the fourth least amount of fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So sit. I don't know. Is Corey Davis even healthy to play? I know he was a little
He's
dinged
still
up.
questionable.
He's questionable. So I would sit Corey Davis, and I'd start Elijah Moore too.
You could start Elijah Moore or sit Elijah Moore?
Sit him. Sitting both of them. Sitting
Okay.
Elijah Moore, sitting Corey Davis, sitting all Jets wide receivers.
Got it.
Giants at the Miami Dolphins. The only injury we have here that I could tell, at least, is Devontae Parker. He's activated off the IR. Should have played his first game in, I think, 4 weeks. Daniel Jones, I think, is starting. He had like a neck issue, but I'm pretty sure he's starting. I'm not sure on the Giants wide receivers, though.
Is he starting? I thought that he was out.
Is he out? I don't see it in any of the morning wraps here. When I was going through the notes yesterday, I didn't see anything on him.
According to ESPN Fantasy, Daniel Jones is out.
I'm guessing it's Shepard and Tony are out too. So that's messy. Yeah. Nick, who's one start, one sit from this game?
Well, I'll tell you my sit right now, and it's every single Giants offensive player, including Saquon Barkley. But Miami's been great on the run, and everybody's going to see that. And I said it on Friday's show. Everybody's going to see that ESPN, the Dolphins are 30th against wide receivers. No, that was inflated from the beginning of the season, and they've been on a hot streak against wide receivers. Do not play any single one of those guys. Maybe one of them has a boom game, but I don't want to be part of the guy that plays the rest of them that are all going to bust on the week. On the Miami side of the ball, it's the same exact guys you've been starting. It's Gesicki, it's Gaskin on the odd weeks, and it's Jalen Waddle. With, I think this week you can get away with Devontae Parker with his workload.
Not only is it an odd week, but the Giants have given up the 5th most points to fantasy running backs. So Myles Gaskin's my start. He's had 2 games, I think, with 12 plus fantasy points, which is weird because he hasn't done that the whole season. But I think he has a 3rd game with a good amount of fantasy points, with over 10 at least. And I'm with you. Sit all the Giants. I don't want to play any Giants this week. Arizona Cardinals against the Chicago Bears. DeAndre Hopkins' hammy is expected to play, but it sounds like he's going to be on a snap count or could be used more sparingly, according to Adam Schefter. Kyler Murray's ankle, he's expected to start. Both of them have missed the last 3 games. Nick, who's your big start, big sit in this one?
I mean, I'm going to put it quite simply for everybody. Start your Cardinals, don't start your Bears. That's all I got to say. I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Are you playing Hopkins and Kyler?
If they're out there, I'm playing them.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it's too close to the playoffs where you doubt your stars.
Yeah.
Especially off the bye.
Yeah. I'm definitely saying my big sit's going to be David Montgomery. The Cardinals 2nd against the run in fantasy points. So I would bench David Montgomery this week. Try to look for another option. Maybe there's somebody that you have as a backup or somebody like that you can start in place of him, because the Bears might get mauled today. This is going to be the Cardinals' coming out party before their playoff push. Los Angeles Chargers against Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't find any injuries in this one. So Nick, who's a start? Who's a sit?
I think Jamar Chase needs a bounce back game. I think Chase goes out there and has a day. The Chargers have been pretty good on the back end, but I think Jamar Chase needs to go out there and have a day. I can't really think of anybody I'd sit. I feel like this is going to be a good game. This is one of those games where you kind of feel baited to take the over, and then it's just going to hit the under.
Yeah, I think there's a big under game because the defenses. Well, I say the defenses have been pretty good, but then again, like the Steelers hung like 40 on the Chargers, and the Bengals have surrendered a lot of points too. So I don't know. That's tough. For me, I say. I mean, you're going to start both running backs anyway. Obviously, Eckler and Joe Mixon. You're starting them no matter what. But The Chargers have surrendered the third most fantasy points to running backs, right behind the Seahawks and the Jets. I know Joe Mixon's had, I think he had 35 fantasy points last week. I think he had a big game the week before that or something too. So Joe Mixon's a guy that you probably drafted in like rounds late 2, early 3. He's been healthy this year. He's been scoring fantasy points. He gets the red zone touches. That's exactly what you'd want in a fantasy running back. And I remember I think I was one pick away from getting him in our league. I was going to triple up on running backs. I was going to have Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, Justin Jefferson as my keeper, and Joe Mixon was going to be my third-round pick, and Mike sniped me the pick before. I was really hoping he would fall to me, though. He shouldn't have fell to pick 26, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Absolute crime. So I think this will be a big running back game for sure. Minnesota Vikings versus the Detroit Lions. Who's your start? Who's your sit?
My start is both those running backs. It's Jamal Williams. It's Alexander Madison. I think both are poised to be top 12 running backs this week. Both those teams are horrendous against the run. Both those running backs have stepped up in big ways when their starters have been out. My bench, mine's Hawkinson. I don't think Hawkinson's reliable for the rest of the year. I've been saying this pretty early on. We started off with a couple big games, and we knew Goff was going to have him as his number one target. If Minnesota is going to game plan for Detroit as like any sort of an actual NFL team versus, a B level team or, they're an F level team, they're going to say, we just need to stop Hawkinson. There's no way they're going to be able to beat us. So if that's your game plan and that's what you roll out with, there's no way Minnesota is going to lose. And as I said, if you're fighting for a playoff spot in the real NFL, you just try and take away the number one weapon and just trust the rest of your players to go out there and win you a game. That's what they're going to do with no Swift there.
It's a big game for Jamal Williams for fantasy owners and for him, because if he has a good game today, I think they can really shut Swift down for the rest of the season. He's going to be out 3-4 weeks anyway if the Lions aren't making the playoffs, so they might just shut him down. If Jamal Williams does have a big game, that's your bell cow for a fantasy playoffs. That's somebody drafted in rounds 10 or 11 if you did keep him on your bench. If you didn't, it's a guy that you picked up, and it could be a big waiver wire pickup that could really help you win your championship. Like, that's the truth of it. You might have just taken him running back one off of the waivers. So I think that's a good play for both of those running backs. I think they'll both, like you said, the top 10, 15 performances from the running back position. Obviously start Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. And I say also start Kirk Cousins. I know he didn't have a great game against the Lions. I think it was week 4 or 5, but Lions are not good against the pass. They're not good against the quarterback. So I think Kirk Cousins is just like Carson Wentz. He could hover around that number 10 number. You could slot him in. If he was on my waiver wire, I might have played him over Russell Wilson because I have zero confidence in that guy right now. So yeah, I would play Kirk Cousins this week. Last of the 1 o'clock games, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Craplana. I hate them so much. Who's your starting sit for this one, Nick?
It's Mike Evans. I said it on the show. I'm calling it right now. Top 3 fantasy finish from him.
He always cooks them. He absolutely cooks
He cooks them without Antonio Brown there. He's been phenomenal with Gronk being a little dinged up as always. I think Evans just goes out there, has a day. Wouldn't be surprised if he had a hat trick in the end zone against them. And for Atlanta, I'm every single person not named Kyle Pitts.
I'm worried about Cordell Patterson. The Bucs have surrendered the fourth least amount of points to fantasy running backs. Now, Cordell Patterson's been like a unicorn out there. Like, he's just like a mythical creature. Nobody can really understand why the guy is playing so well, why he's scoring so many fantasy points, why he's 30 years old, and there's apparently a breakout for him. He's going to win Fantasy Breakout Player of the Year. It's just very, very, very weird from Cordell Patterson, but I would look to bench him this week because the Bucs have been very good against running backs. So, except for, Jonathan Taylor had a pretty good game. The touchdown kind of saved him. I think he would have had like 13 fantasy points without it. So, I would look to pivot away from Cordell Patterson. As for a start, yeah, Nick's right. I'd play all your Bucs. I would play Tom Brady. I'd play Gronkowski, Godwin, Evans. Play them all. Leonard Fournette, play them all. The Bucs should all have a pretty big game against the Atlanta Falcons. On to the 425 games, the Washington football team versus the Las Vegas Raiders. We have some injuries in this one. Darren Waller's leg, he's out. Foster Moreau is going to start. As for the Jags, I just saw this morning. James Robinson's heel is a game-time decision and at least has a realistic chance.
We're not talking about James Robinson, bud.
Why not?
It's the football team versus Vegas.
Oops, I apparently jumped the gun on that one. I don't know why my eyes went there. It's early, guys. I worked a lot yesterday. The football team versus the Las Vegas Raiders. The only other injury I could find is Curtis Samuel, but I don't think you're playing him. And Logan Thomas is good to go. Who's starting to sit for you in this one?
My start is everybody. Both these teams have been horrendous on defense. The only there's a difference between being like the 6th through the 10th best against something and the 6th through the 10th worst. Like Vegas and the football team for fantasy points have been like bottom 5 in every single category, except the Raiders have been good against wide receivers.
Yep.
Which is why my sit this week. I'm gonna say it. Don't
Yeah.
start.
Oh no, you're taking it. That was mine too.
I'm saying don't start McLaurin. I think McLaurin's a great talent. I don't think Heineke's the great quarterback. I think they're hot. I think they can win this game. But I think Gibson and Logan Thomas, they're just gonna have to keep pounding those two to go put up points in this game. I think McLaurin could have a good day, but I think if you're fighting for a playoff spot, I think McLaurin's a risky play, even though he's that talented.
I think I'm with you on this one. I think Terry McLaurin's kind of running off his name and his potential, because at the moment he's only scored over 15 fantasy points 4 times out of 13 weeks. He scored under 10 also 4 times. That's not really consistent at all. It's definitely not consistent. So yeah, and I would play Logan Thomas because the Raiders are giving up the most fantasy points to tight ends. So I think Logan Thomas is a big start this week. He kind of got his feet wet against Seattle. His first game back after a couple of weeks, and he didn't have a great game. Only scored 6 fantasy points, but in 6 targets. So he could get in the end zone today and get you the upwards of 12 fantasy points for sure. And I think they've also given up a lot of points to running backs, if I'm correct. They're 8th against running backs. So Antonio Gibson, like you said on our show on Friday's show, since the bye, I have the numbers right here. 21-7 against Carolina, but he still had 95 rushing yards. So he just wasn't getting the receptions or a touchdown. And then 21 against Seattle. So he's going up against another bad Vegas defense. I don't think J.D. McKissick's playing. I have to look that up, but I think he's still in concussion protocol. So maybe Gibson gets some receptions finally and gets used as a 3-down back and not just a 1 and 2 down back. So I would play them. San Francisco 49ers against my horrific Seattle Seahawks. Adrian Peterson activated off the Seahawks practice squad. Might be eating into those Alex Collins touches. As for the 49ers, Deebo Samuel is out with his groin injury. That's the only notable injury for them. My big start this week is Elijah Mitchell. I said it on my lock flop. Elijah Mitchell's going to have 100 yards, probably a touchdown or 2 against Seattle. He's going to absolutely run all over them. He's going to stiff arm. He's going to juke. He's going to do everything he can to score fantasy points against my terrible Seattle Seahawks. I don't have a sit yet, and I don't know who my sit is in this game. I would like to say sit Russell Wilson, but he actually does play well against the 49ers. So, but I'm still going to say sit Russell Wilson because he hasn't shown me any reason why he should be in my starting lineup at the moment.
I have one major start. It's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has been phenomenal in his career against the 49ers. I have no doubt that he will be again. The 49ers have been a good defense all year long, actually. But against the quarterbacks, they're ranked 23rd. I think Russell Wilson's mobile. I think he gets back into his groove. I think Russell Wilson's too talented to have this long of a bad stretch. I think there's enough talent on that offense where with his talent, he can overcome obstacles. And I don't know if they walk away with a win this week because San Francisco is just so hot. But I think Russell Wilson can bounce back in a big way fantasy-wise. He almost had the win against Washington last week.
I just wonder, like, what's the margin here when people, not just us, but anybody else stop saying he has to bounce back at some point because he's talented. I'm just trying to figure out what's that threshold? How many weeks of leeway do we give him? As a Seahawk fan, like, I think I've seen enough. Like, I've seen 3 games. This is really it. Like, if they lose this one, he should be shut. I said he should be shut down after the Arizona one. But if they lose this one for sure, shut him down for the season.
I don't think they will shut him down. My sits are I think Nick knows this. Just don't play any Seattle running back at this point. But the other one is San Francisco's defense. I think a lot of people are gonna crush the Hawks having the 4th worst record in the NFL after tiebreakers and all that. I think a lot of people are gonna crush them, and I just think if you're trusting a team that's been hurt in and out for 2 years to go shut down an MVP-like quarterback for his whole career, DK Metcalf, who's a proven elite wide receiver, and Tyler Lockett, who has been phenomenal on and off. Like, you're really banking on a team that's been injured for so long to shut down a division rival that's that talented on offense. I think a lot of people are going to start San Francisco's defense this week, and I will not be a part of that.
Me neither. No. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Los Angeles Rams. Odell Beckham Jr. is expected to play with his hip injury. Rappaport said he's expected to play today, and he should be a bigger part of the offense. As for Darrell Henderson, his thigh, it's hopeful that he played today, even though he may not have a full workload. I think he didn't practice on Friday or Thursday. He didn't practice for most of the week. On the Jaguar side, James Robinson's heel and knee is a game-time decision and at least a realistic chance to play. I'll say it right now, James Robinson is my sit. I don't want to watch him run right into Aaron Donald's bear claws for the whole game, so he's a sit. Basically, all the Jaguars are a sit. This is going to be a mauling. I don't know what the spread is on this game. I definitely took the Rams, though, in my spread pool because I was not messing around with this one. I'm going to check it right now for fun.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars got shut out.
12.5, that's a steal because they're going to win by 14. So, and as for a start, just start your Rams. Like, that's all I got to say. Just start Stafford, start Odell, start Cooper Kupp. Darrell Henderson might be a little shaky to start, though, because Sony Michel is back there. And I would also say this. If Sony Michel's on your waiver wire, make sure you pick him up, especially if you have Darrell Henderson. Just pick him up to play keep away from people on top of it, even if you're not going to start him. You know, it's being a little bit of a menace out there, but still do it.
I agree with Nick entirely. I mean, it's bench your Jaguars, play your Rams. I mean, I think the Rams defense is, they should be rostered, but I mean, they should be played in every single league.
That's a lot of these games this week. Like a lot of these games are really lopsided. Like that game's a 12.5 spread.
Yeah.
Bucks are 10.5 spread. Jets are 6.5. Lions are 7.5. Like
the Jets, I think the Jets went down to 3.5.
Yeah, I mean these lines are set on Tuesday. I think.
Yeah.
They don't change. Colts are 8.5. Cardinals 7.5. Like it's just one of those weeks. There's just a lot of favorites. So we'll see. This is a good game. Baltimore Ravens against Pittsburgh Steelers. This should actually really be a good game. I'm looking forward to actually watching this on the Red Zone. Who's just starting to sit for you, Nick?
That's a tough. You take this one first.
I'm a little worried about Najee Harris. The Ravens have given up the 5th least amount of points to running backs. I'm not worried about Najee as a player. Worried about the Steelers offense and noodle arm because they looked horrible last week against the Bengals, right? Wasn't the Bengals game last week, I think?
Yeah.
I just remember they looked bad. I remember they got killed. I just don't remember who it was against. As for a start, I mean, this is a really tough game. They're rivals and they play really well against each other. I would say Lamar Jackson because I know the Steelers defense is tough, but I think the Ravens haven't really hit their groove yet. I know they were hot at the beginning of the season. Lamar got injured. They had their bye, but I think it's time for the Ravens to get back to form and start flying. So I think this could be a Ravens coming out party, and it could really decide who makes the playoffs from this division. I know the Bengals are looking really good, but one of these teams will also make the playoffs, I think. So I think it will kind of decide who's going to get bumped.
I'm in such a tough place with this game because I'm like, both these teams, like for fantasy wise, they're practically the same on defense to one another. Like they're both good against running backs. They're both pretty good against tight end. They're both not so good against wide receiver. They're both not too good against the quarterback. But I mean, then you just go with the talent that's there. I mean, not to start Ben Roethlisberger because Brendan Roethlisberger is not that talented anymore, but you start Najee Harris, even though it's a tough matchup for the running back. So my take is pretty much start who you normally would. Start your Najee Harris, start your Deontay Johnson, start Lamar, start Marquise Brown, start Mark Andrews, and Claypool's the only fringe one for me. And I trust Claypool every single week. I've said this without Juju there. I think Claypool is just the wide receiver too. Well-established, could have a good game. If I had to pick one guy to bench, I'll go with Pat Freiermuth.
See, I'm on the opposite. I was just about to say play Pat Freiermuth because the Ravens have given up the 6th least amount, most points to tight ends. So I would say play Freiermuth. I think Noodle Arm likes looking towards him for like 5-yard passes. Sunday Night Football, the game that me and Nick will be commentating tonight on the Colorcast app. Again, please join into that. Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Melvin Gordon is out for Sunday Night Football. The Javonte Williams train is officially leaving the station. He gets his first start of his career. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has an illness. He should play, although he really shouldn't play for fantasy purposes because Darrell Williams is a better running back. Who's just starting to sit for you in this one, Nick?
Start Javonte Williams. Javonte will. This is his coming out party right now. I told my brother, who told me Melvin Gordon was a great fantasy pick, also a residence Broncos fan. I told him it was a terrible pick because by the end of the year, Javonte Williams will establish himself as a starter, and you're going to become too reliant on him as your RB2 where he is not going to out-touch Javonte Williams at some point for the rest of the year. I think this is the week where it starts to happen. I think Javonte proves himself up against this Chiefs team. I think he goes out there, has a day. I've started him over Odell, Ayuk,
Oh, wow.
T. Higgins, and there's one other guy, the one other great, good player that I started him over. I think Javonte Williams. I think he has a monster day against Kansas City.
I hope you're right. As an owner of Javonte Williams in 4 different fantasy leagues, I think I'm playing him in 2 of them. I really hope you're right. Because if he does have a big game, I think he can take that starting job. But if he doesn't, then a lot of us Javonte Williams truthers might not look so good.
I hope I'm right too, because I have a rookie autograph card of his at a 25. So I'm really hoping I'm right as well. And then on the other side of the ball, I'm not starting either Kansas City running back. Even if Edwards-Helaire is ruled out, even though I like Darrell Williams a lot as a talent, Denver's really good against running backs. So I just don't think he'll have a great day. Denver's defense is phenomenal. Another player thing you could get away with, I think, starting though, is Kansas City's defense. They've been pretty hot recently. They don't allow a lot of points. Teddy Bridgewater doesn't turn the ball over too much, but they're not going to put up a lot of points unless they force Mahomes to turn the ball over, which is definitely possible. But then they're not allowing a lot of yards. So I think
I'm right.
Kansas City
I'm right with you. I'm with you on that one. Buffalo Bills against the New England Patriots, Monday Night Football. Who's your start and who's your sit for this one? I think I know who your sit is.
My sit is everybody. I don't like a single piece of this game. I think it's a defensive matchup. I think it was just the forecast is also a lot of snowstorm in Buffalo, which is a formula for running backs will exceed. Well, guess what? Buffalo doesn't have a good running back, and New England has 3 good running backs who they like giving the ball to. So I'm benching every single player in this game that you can. I think I benched Stephon Diggs in the league too. That's how worried I am about the snowstorm. The only player I think I have starting, and it's because Jalen Hurts is out, is Mac Jones, and that's because I didn't get Taysom Hill in my lineup soon enough Thursday.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. Both teams are both in the top 5 against tight ends with allowing fantasy points to wide receivers. Both of these teams are also top 5 with the running back, with the wide receivers and tight ends. Quarterbacks, the Patriots are number 3 or something. So, I mean, it's a really tough matchup for everybody all around. I think I'm with you on this one. I think if you drafted Josh Allen early, you probably have to play him unless you have Carson Wentz, like I said, or Kirk Cousins. I'd play them over Josh Allen, though. Or unless I think I'd play Stephon Diggs because of where you drafted him and the talent, but that's it. I wouldn't play Dawson Knox. I think I'm starting Gesicki over him today. I wouldn't start any Patriot because none of them are fantasy favorable. So I think you hit the nail on the head on that one.
I think I'm actually playing Javonte Williams over Stephon Diggs this week.
Jeez, man. Yeah, you're going all in on him more than I have. All righty, guys. That's our live show for week 13. Thank you guys for watching, whether you watch live or whether you watch the replay. I know it was early, but that's kind of how it goes sometimes. Again, if you do catch this replay, please join us on the Colorcast app tonight, 8:20 Eastern time, maybe a little bit early for the Denver Broncos versus Kansas City game. It is audio only, so you won't see our handsome mugs on that one, but watch the game, put a headphone in and listen to us. Listen to us just talk and joke, and you could write in the chat. We'll talk to you in the chat. If you want to actually put a microphone in and speak to us, hit that hot mic button and we'll bring you in. We'll basically radio. We'll add you in and you could talk for as long as you want. You could ask us questions, talk about fantasy, talk about life, talk about superhero, like whatever you want to talk about. We'll answer your call and you could join in and have a good time with us. So please join us. The Colorcast app is 100% free. It's an easy download. It takes all of 10 seconds. We'd really appreciate it. A direct link will be posted to my personal social medias and also the Primetime Fantasy social media so you guys can join into the stream. You probably have to make an account, just like an email password or whatever, but still, a lot of fun.
The app looks like there's a couple different ones. So
okay, yeah. Colorcast. It's called Colorcast Social and Sports Talk, I believe. So it'd be a lot of fun, guys. So please join in. It really mean a lot to us. It's a big opportunity for us. So would mean a lot. So thank you for that. Aside from that, the next time you hear from us on this show will be Tuesday, audio version, obviously on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you could find a podcast. And the video version will be available on YouTube. So Nick, anything else you'd like to say before week 13?
So I got to say, let's bounce back this week from last week. We got a great team. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's bounce back because I lost a matchup by 0.2 on a stat correction.
Oh, my God.
I had to email ESPN about that. I emailed ESPN about that, and they said it's an internal stat correction, so it doesn't even show up on the stat corrections. That's why I couldn't find it.
You emailed ESPN.
Oh, I did. Oh, I did email ESPN because my playoff chances are in great jeopardy at the moment, and I lost by 0.2. Didn't correct it till Wednesday morning. I was furious. Anyway.
Ironically enough, that switched loss made my playoff odds the same as the Lions, baby. Me
and on
the
top of
Lions
it,
without a
Yahoo.
shot.
So just real quick. So basically, the football team's defense was given 15 points against because of the blocked pat for a return on the special teams. And Yahoo, they don't count that. ESPN, they do. We're on ESPN. No good. Alrighty, guys. Speak to you tonight. Colorcast app. Please join us. Broncos, Chiefs. Talk to you then.